Welcome to ATCM. Today we will be presenting a trauma case. Shall we start, sir?
Yes, sir.
Sir, a middle-aged 32-year-old person was brought to here with a short history from the EMT that it's an alleged history of road traffic accident with severe brain injury, and he has been intubated and has been referred to our hospital.
32 years, male or female?
Male, sir.
Okay.
So in my initial 10-second assessment, this is an intubated patient, and in quick assessment, the fogging of the air is present in the ET2, and he is having very low GCs, E1, VT, M1. So I quickly started my primary survey. In primary survey, airway is secured with an 8-sized ET2 and angle of mouth of around 20, sir, and air entry is air fogging is present, and cuff pressure was also monitored. It was also normal, sir.
The patient came with endotracheal.
Yes, sir. He has been intubated from outside, and no obvious secretions of bleed in the ET2. Then cervical spine has been already secured with a cervical
So what
collar.
else will you do when the patient is being received with an endotracheal tube or department from other place?
First, we have to look for whether the tube is patent or not, sir. Whether the cuff leakages, anything is there. Whether the air entry is there bilaterally equal. Whether the patient is maintaining the saturation. Any cuff leak is there. These are the major things we have to look, sir.
Okay, good.
And for our patient, it was patent at that time. And then I immediately went to the breathing part. He was maintaining air entry was there bilaterally equal. No added some saturation. He was maintaining 100% with only 21% FiO2, and respiratory rate from the mode in which he has been transferred was in a PCV mode, sir, with an FiO2 of 21%, with a pressure control of 18, with a PEEP of 5, with a respiratory rate of 18, IE ratio 1:2. For time being, we continued in the same mode and same settings. Then I went to the circulation part.
Now, what are the drugs already given?
Sir, they have not mentioned what all drugs they have used for this patient.
Okay.
But on arrival, our GCS was only E1, VTM ones.
The patient is not straining over the tube.
Right now, he was not
comfortable.
straining, sir.
Good.
So, in the circulation part, already the patient was having a 2 large bore IV cannula from outside, but we don't know the patency of that. We saw another secured, another 2 more 18 size cannula was secured, sir. And at that time, we have sent for an immediate point of care. Hemoglobin was also sent. Otherwise, he was holding a BP of 110/70 millimeters of mercury with a pulse rate of but around 110 was there, sir. Probably because of pain or impending hypertension may be the reason, sir. Then I immediately went to the disability part, but actively and coming to the active circulation part itself, there was a small punctured wound over his right below knee, and there was bleeding continuously, blood oozing from that punctured side, sir. Then I went to the disability part. Just like I already mentioned, GCS is only E1, VT, M1. Pupils were 1.5 mm bilateral, sluggishly.
Now, what did you do for that hemorrhage?
Already there was an compression kept there, sir, but it was continuously soaking with blood, sir. Okay, so we anyway changed it and we applied another one. Then
you can try for hemostatic dressing in that condition. Hemostatic dressings are available now. That can be tried, but even then it may not arrest because there may be an artery injury. That has to be addressed.
You can think about going for a tourniquet also.
Tourniquet, but I'll come to this. There was actually pulse deficits in the lower limbs.
No,
the pulse were not good. So then I immediately in the GCS part, GCS is E1 VTM1, pupils also 1.5 mm, bilaterally sluggish reacting, and GRBS was also 98 milligrams of vesilator. Then my quick examination in the exposure part, he was having deformity in the shape of both the lower limbs, and multiple contusions and facial injuries present.
It's always better to tell the dynamics of the trauma before.
Actually, it was an unwitnessed injury, sir, and it was an unwitnessed. We don't know how the mechanics exactly, but it was a two-wheeler versus a lorry truck injury, and we are expecting him to be a high-velocity injury. He was a pillion rider. Even with the pillion rider, he has sustained, but not he was not wearing helmet, but he has sustained a very severe head injury along with the bilateral both lower limb deformities there, and
because the bike injuries and car injuries are accident injuries are totally different. Bike injury, especially when you meet a injury like that, mostly face, chest will be injured. Whereas in car, it may be go back and hit on the seat. If it is not a seat belt is not placed properly.
Yes, sir.
So dynamics of the trauma is very important when we are managing in emergency room.
Yes, sir. So these deformities were noted, and also tense swelling was noted on both the calf. And here the oozing was continuously coming from the one part, but the other lower limb was having tense swelling was noted. So we immediately checked for the peripheral pulses. Upper limbs were having bounding pulse, but lower limb pulse were very weak. Popliteal pulses were present, but lower limb pulses were present, but very feeble, sir. So
Where? Which
pardon?
pulse?
Posterior tibial and dorsalis tibial.
And both the limbs. It was
Both the
very
limbs it was actually feeble. So
We can immediately use a Doppler. When we have a Doppler in emergency room, we can try a Doppler and see what is the flow in the artery.
So that was the immediate exposure part, and anyway we gave him a warm blanket also to cover the.
What is the temperature?
He was having a. I'm not sure, sir. I have
We have to
documented a temperature, sir. But
mention
anyway, we
that one. Okay.
prevent
So
hypothermia.
trauma, hypothermia.
Why to prevent hypothermia?
Because to prevent
Dangerous
the
triads.
deadly
Trauma.
triad, sir.
What is a deadly triad?
Hypothermia, coagulability,
And acidosis.
Oh.
So then I reassessed the primary survey. He was holding on, and for as an adjuncts, I actually for a trauma adjuncts will be to do an as per the ATLS is to we have to go for a X-ray chest, X-ray pelvis. We have to go for an ECG. If it is not a catheterized patient, we will have to do catheterization. We can go for a VBG to look for the lactate base deficit, and if we have a hemoglobin value in that, look for the hemoglobin values and ECG. For our patient, the patient has been initially seen by some other hospital. They have already done a full whole body CT scan, sir.
Okay.
So I didn't go for another X-rays or pelvis. So I will mention what was the CT finding in their outside hospital. CT brain was showing subarachnoid hemorrhage in the left frontal and temporal region, sir, with
No, and
minimal.
before that clinical examination, when you
sir.
will do the head to foot, you
sir,
have
then-
focused this thing on only area.
So ideally, if we didn't have the CT reports, here also we did, sir. Immediately I proceeded with a fast examination also. In fast examination, I couldn't detect anything positive, sir. All the quadrants and chest cavity pelvis were normal at that time, sir. But even though our VBG was showing a hemoglobin of only 10, even though the outside hemoglobin was 16, sir. So even though the fast every areas were normal, we have to expect the other areas of blood loss. Either
There is
can
a
be
blood loss
Ongoing.
ongoing bleed you are seeing.
Seeing.
That is on the floor. That is significant
possible.
bleeding means that may be the reason for this
loss.
anemia.
Possibilities here it is will be long bone fracture, and we are losing the blood either in the entire compartment or continuously we are losing from the puncture side. And it is we are supposed to look for other areas also, retroperitoneal areas, pelvic
We have
cavity,
to start from
pericardium,
head to foot.
head to foot.
But there are two examinations. One is rapid scanning,
Scanning.
and another one is a detailed
Detailed
examination. Patient condition is stable, we can go for that. Or else we should not miss the head to foot examination by rapid scanning. You should mention it. See, these are all distracting injuries.
Yes,
What is a distracting injury?
Here the normal anatomy has been completely distorted, sir.
So we will be diverted.
Diverted.
So, but we will be forget to examine other systems. So routine scanning, okay, rapid should be
For
done.
our
You have
patient,
to
we were a
mention
little
about
bit more
it.
confident because our repeat scan, fast scan was also negative,
Okay.
and we have already have a whole body scan, so we are not expecting another injuries. So his cervical spine, thoracic area, everything has been ruled out. Intracranial injuries there, along with the pelvic, all other organs we have ruled out. That's why a little bit we are okay with that, and we are expecting to having to have this blood loss in the lower limbs. So I proceeded with my secondary survey. No history of any allergies, no relevant past history. No, he's not on any medications. Last meals bystanders doesn't know, and even lead to us, he's a pillion rider. Alleged history of RTA around 6 hours before arrival to our hospital, and following which it is an unwitnessed injury. So we don't know whether he had any seizures or something, but he's having loss of consciousness from that point onwards. In a very low Jesus, he has been intubated in that hospital, and from there they have given the documents shows that they have given TT and TED globes, sir. And anti-epileptics also they have loaded, but they have not mentioned whether he has thrown up any seizures, but they have loaded up him on anti-epileptics, and they have bystanders actually refused to continue the treatment there, and they referred the patient Amrita Hospital. So that's the event lead. Then I did my head to foot examination. In a head injury, already in the gross initial inspection here, I can see both bilateral raccoon eye space there, and actually bleeding from the meatus in the left meatus was also there. So I should suspect a basal skull fracture also. Otherwise, mild crepitations were also inspection I will complete, sir, and no mild deviation of the angle of jaw was also there. But already, since I have a report that it's a mandibular rami fracture, it confirms it. The deviation is because of that. Other than that, no, in the visual inspection, only multiple abrasions and contusions were noted in the left side of the face. That was the inspection, and then other inspection of the neck wise, there was no obvious swelling or no paradoxical movement or bulging. Nothing was there, sir.
Oral cavity.
Oral cavity already the ET2 was there, sir. Since our report has multiple
They may
fractures.
be missing some injuries. It is our bounden duty. Again, revisit everything. Okay.
From the obvious inspection, I couldn't find any ongoing bleeding or no bulging hematoma or nasal septal hematoma. Nothing was there, sir. Since already there was a mandibular fracture, I didn't go for a manipulation or for a further jaw thrust examination and so. Since already an ET2 and airway has been secured.
You have to look for the teeth also.
Teeth also.
Any broken teeth or missing teeth.
Yeah, sure.
They might not have mentioned it may be gone in
Sir.
foreign body. May there. Okay, good.
And then coming to the chest area, there was no paradoxical movements. Air entry was bilaterally equal, maintaining saturation in the 21% FiO2 also. And our ABG was showing also normal ABG. Also, ABG acidosis was there, but it was because of lactic acidosis. Lactate was 8, a pH of around 7.2, but PCO2 and PO2 were within the acceptable range. Otherwise, there was no obvious chest injuries noted, sir. No, only mild aberrations were there.
Lactate is 8.
Probably because he is having ischemia, hypoxemic injury, traumatic blood loss, and ischemic injury.
Saturation is good, no?
Saturation is fine, sir.
HB is 10.
HB is dropping. From the first hospital, it was documented as 16. Now it is as 10.
So what are the reasons for lactic acidosis in this patient?
Anemia also can be there.
Anyway, I think it may be type B, a local pathology issue. Maybe the ongoing tissue destruction is a possibility, sir. A possible developing compartment syndrome might be a possibility. And maybe he might have been in a hypotension, and right now he might have received a fluid resuscitation.
Maybe they might have given fluids in hypotension. That time he might have had lactic acidosis that may be recovering, or he might have developed a seizure episode. That also we don't.
Yeah, because I think that's the reason, sir, because our subsequent ABG was showing an improvement in lactate.
Okay.
Then coming to the abdomen examination, per abdomen was normal and soft and non-tender, and no obvious any bleeding or bluish discolorations were present, sir. Pelvis also, pelvic compression test was negative, and our CT already we have proven that pelvis was intact. No bleeding in the perineal area or any discoloration in the perineal area, no bleeding in the meatus, sir. And coming to the our
catheterized patient.
already he is catheterized, sir. And coming to long bones, upper limbs, there were no movement restrictions, passing movements, everything were within normal limit. No obvious deformities were not there. But in lower limbs, there was gross deformities in below the knee of both the levels. And we had the X-ray from the outside hospital itself. In X-ray, the patient is having a both bone fracture for the right side, and left side it is a commutated fracture of the left tibia, sir. And focal neurological deficit also we assessed at that time. It was showing, since he is having low GC, so we don't know whether his sensory motor status, but pulse was pretty weak on both the lower limbs, and both the calf muscles were pretty tender and tight and tender. So possibility of a compartment syndrome was also thought at that time. Bilateral, we are not sure whether one limb is affected or not. Both were tense and tender, but one side had a little puncture wound, so blood was oozing it from there.
So whether the puncture is from external to internal or internal to external by some broken bone or
internal, sir, because there the fracture is little bit on the mid part, but the wound is little bit above.
So there are chances that sharp edge of the bone, broken bone, may cause vessels damage.
Sure.
Okay, good.
So that's the musculoskeletal examination. So came to my provisional diagnosis that this patient is of severe traumatic brain injury with diagnosed, we already had the CT from outside, with a diagnosed SDH with a subarachnoid hemorrhage and bilateral lower bone, both bone fractures. And this was the our initial impression. And
pupillary examination findings?
1.5 bilateral sluggish.
Sluggish.
Okay. So then come to our treatment, sir. Since we have an ongoing HB drop, we serially started monitoring his hemoglobin, and after some time he started to have mild triggers in the ventilator, along with some amount of struggles were noted. So we gave him analgesia. Since BP was holding on, we gave him analgesia. Fentanyl was given, sir. And for sedation, actually ideal drug would be to go for a propofol, because it reduces the intracranial pressure, and he will get proper analgesia. 1.5 mg, 1 to 1.5 mg kg bolus can be given. But our hospital, we are not using propofol much in the ED, so we prefer to go with an ethomidate and give a muscle relaxant, and rocuronium was given, sir. And that was regarding the ventilation part, and we continued the ventilator patterns, and our fast was again came to be negative. Circulation part, actually he was holding on to BP of 110/70. There was no further episodes of hypertensions were there anyway, but he will come under around class 3 hemorrhagic shock, sir, because we are expecting a blood loss in tibial fracture is around 1 liter. So 1 liter in both lungs are involved, so probably we have to expect around 2 liter blood loss. We should expect in the class 3 hemorrhagic shock, we have to expect him, sir. So we anyway got his blood cross matched and got ready for in case we needed MTP to be activated.
This patient MTP may be required or not?
He may require, for example, if he is taken for, because finally when her slab cams he is having coagulopathy of around 1.9 and also probably maybe dilutional or and a coagulopathy of
what is the globulin level? LFT globulin.
LFT was OTBT, everything were within normal.
Globulin.
Actually, the thing is like he had some financial constraints, so these investigations were not clear.
So albumin globulin, if you see, if the globulin is high, he may have already a liver disease.
Yes.
Alcoholic liver disease, it may be there. So in that condition, even if the patient does not bleed too much, we will have to give everything.
Yes, sir.
Like pack cells, FFP, platelet, everything has to be given.
Yes.
Okay. That may not be part of the current problem, it may be an ongoing problem.
So blood products were kept ready, sir, and other than that, tranexamic acid has a role here, but it was already given from the referring hospital.
What is the dose of tranexamic?
According to crash to 1 gram bolus, it was given from that hospital. So we continued another 1 gram for 8-hour infusion. That was continued from our part. So after circulation part, this much we have taken care. And then coming to the other local fracture issues, we took an OMFS consultation, neurosurgery consultation, and orthopedic consultation was taken, sir, for the fractures. OMFS, they have noted the multiple bone fractures, and they have opted like the patient will require an internal fixation, but not in an emergency basis, because it doesn't look like any entrapment of muscles. Only that are some indication that go for emergency surgeries, but it was not there. Neurosurgery was also to go ahead with the serial monitoring of the CT brains. So in case of any raised ICT or herniations, we will have to intervene, sir. So at that point in time, anti-epileptics, sir, it's a topic of controversy. ATLS doesn't ask us to load him any patient on seizures, but any proven seizures or any witness seizures or EEG, then we can load him on seizures.
Subarachnoid hemorrhage is one condition where we can anticipate seizures. So it is better to give, but ATLS does not recommend any prophylactic treatment with antiepileptic.
And also in case of severe traumatic brain injury, it's based on the personal physician's approval, but we used to give for severe traumatic brain injury, because such patients, if they
what antiepileptic we give?
More safe will be to give a levetiracetam, sir, irrespective of other taking care of other chromopsy the patient may or may not have. So we can prevent in case of he throws up any seizure, the chance of raised ICT, everything, further complications will develop. So prevent that, it's better to give prophylactic antiepileptic in case of severe traumatic brain injuries. So and to give to prevent raised ICT, we gave the normal prophylactic pictures. Since we have already ruled out a spine injury, we give 30-degree head and elevation. Cervical collar can be loosened, because we have ruled out a C-spine injury also, and the ET tube ties can be loosened up, and we can continue hormone, and the 3% hypertonic salines can be continued, and we have to give him a proper analgesia and sedation while he is on the ventilator.
Saline, how do you give?
Sir, here
what is the
recommendation is to maintain a target of more than 135 135 to 145 in the first initial setup.
More than normal limit. It is more 145. Should keep it above that, then only brain edema will come down. Otherwise, normal sodium, brain edema will not come down. But that is not a good long-term treatment. Only in emergency room we should try. The brain edema is increasing. We have to ask neurosurgeon, and definitive treatment should be taken.
So if it is not responding, we can go up to a target above 150 itself, as allowed by. And our patients, anyway, we started infusing in 3% saline around 25 to 30 ml per hour infusion has been started, and serial monitoring of the sodium was given, and serial monitoring of GCS was also advised, and to maintain a normal hemodynamics. And coming to the lower limb fracture site, already he was immobilized from the outside hospital with actually it was a Thomas splint they have applied and referred. We converted it into a long arm slab. Long arm, not the above knee slab was applied. And regarding compartment, actually the patient was taken for later CT angiogram and showed that there was no obvious vascular injury, and it was taken up for a conservative management initially with leg raised and other rest analgesia and all. In case of the patient who goes into any worsening of compartment pressure and loss of further worsening of the flow, you will have to go for a fasciotomy, sir. And anyway, this patient was right side having an open fracture, so because it's a penetrating injury, sir, so it is an emergency indication for an open reduction and internal fixation. So this patient was immediately within 12 hours taken for an OT or open reduction and internal fixation, sir. So it will also
given any antibiotic coverage.
Outside hospital he was not on in any coverage. So from our hospital we gave him cefuroxime 1.2 is the recommended from the ATLS. For our side, to prevent in case of penetrating injuries, we also added amikacin and metronidazole. Triple coverage we give, sir, to prevent bone injuries and all. So this was our initial management. We handed over the patient to the neurosurgery part for observation and intervention from the orthopedics part, sir. And he is surgery undergoing surgery right now.
Okay.
Orthopedic surgery.
Actually, surgery for orthopedics, neurosurgery they are conservative management.
Conservative, saphenobacter going on. Basal skull fracture.
Basal skull fracture we are expecting because bleeding from the tympanum, oral cavity was there, but in the CT obvious basal skull fracture was not there. Maxillary fractures, only facial bone fractures were there. Basal bone looks intact.
Okay, sir.
Okay,
Thank you.
Thanks.
Good.